A book, a name, a young girl, a disease, a cultural icon, a fashion aesthetic, a film, a song, or an endless controversy. 3 syllables. Lolita is all of these. It stands as one of the most famous stories ever told, situated at the furthest edge of the moral boundary. Romantic yet morbid, sophisticated yet sinful. Few works can rival Lolita in terms of influence and recognition. Adaptations have continued to emerge, from Kubrick's black and white film to stories clearly influenced by its shadow, such as Lyne, The Professional, or Baby Doll. However, regarding faithfulness to the original text, Adrian Lyne's cinematic rendition is perhaps the most notable. Today, let's join the discussion to offer both praise and the criticisms that audiences have hurled at this work for decades. Let's see if in the 1997 film Lolita, there was any shred of love within Humbert, or if it was entirely a twisted obsession. Set against a nostalgic backdrop of late 1940s America, Lolita is filled with pristine frames and pleasing colors. Trees and vast roads are covered in a hazy veil of sunlight, mist, and the grainy texture of the era's cinematography. Told through the perspective of a middle-aged professor named Humbert, the story recounts his infatuation with a 12-year-old girl named Dolores Haze. The film leads the audience on a journey through a deviant, wrongful affection that is hard to forget. The film begins with the image of a bloodied Humbert, murmuring words that have become immortal. Lolita, the tip of the tongue taking a trip of 3 steps down the palate to tap at 3 on the teeth. Lolita. She was low, plain low in the morning, standing 4 feet 10 in 1 sock. She was Lola in slacks. She was Dolly at school. But in my arms, she was always Lolita. For those familiar with the novel, Humbert is an intellectual, making his narrative voice smooth, romantic, and highly ornate. In this adaptation, that poetic flair is conveyed not just visually, but through the haunting melodies of the legendary Ennio Morricone, beautiful, yet profoundly somber and bitter. After the introduction, we return to where the story truly began. Humbert is a British professor who moves to America for a teaching position. Because his intended lodgings burned down, he reluctantly rents a room from a widow named Charlotte Haze. However, the moment he sees her daughter, Lo, lying on the grass in rain-soaked clothes with an innocent smile, Humbert immediately decides to stay. He spends that entire summer fantasizing about the child. He writes his darkest thoughts in a diary, and eventually marries Lolita's mother, just to remain near the girl. Yet the truth inevitably surfaces. Charlotte discovers the diary, and spirals into a frenzy. Humbert attempts to explain, but he cannot stop his wife from bolting out the door, where she is struck and killed by a car. Tragedy becomes an opportunity. Humbert picks Lolita up from summer camp, and the two travel across the country under the guise of relatives, hiding their forbidden relationship. Truthfully, though difficult to accept, Humbert is a character designed to elicit audience empathy. He almost always finds a way to justify his actions. Little deadly demons. That is how Humbert views children like Lolita, enchanting, seductive, and not nearly as innocent as they appear. In his telling, he exercises restraint, and is acutely aware of the boundaries with Dolores. According to his narrative, Lolita is the one who initiates affection. She kisses him, she follows him voluntarily, and she eventually betrays him. However, it is not hard to see the sugarcoating this professor wraps around his words. The subjective lens the director gives Humbert transforms him into an unreliable narrator. For instance, a detail where Lolita passes by and lightly steps on the hem of Humbert's trousers makes him smile, convinced she has an ulterior motive. Similarly, when Lolita sits on his lap, or touches him while they are on a porch swing, Humbert automatically interprets it as an invitation, a green light for his lust to override his reason. He is enamored with her, to the point of obsession. Indeed, obsession is far more fitting than love to describe the relationship between Humbert and Lolita. If we strip away the melodies and the agonizingly erotic prose, all that remains is the chronic suffering of a man trying to desperately cling to the nymphette beauty he idolizes. Dolores once confessed to Humbert that she had an intimate encounter with a boy named Charlie Holmes at camp. From then on, he constantly questions her about this boy, asking if she loved him, or rather if she remembers him more than she remembers Humbert. Even though he possessed her physically, Humbert is selfishly jealous, wanting Lolita's purity to remain eternally within his grasp. We also cannot say Lolita followed Humbert voluntarily when all her other relatives were gone. Rather, Humbert exploited her isolation, appearing at her loneliest moment to become her only support. And in the end, did she not flee from him without a single word of farewell? Can all of this be called love? A defiance of every moral boundary to satisfy a mental fever. Some say it is truly love, because when Humbert finds Lolita again, he lets her go, granting her the freedom to seek happiness. However, look at the circumstances. Lolita was pregnant, her body had changed, her face had changed, and her attitude had changed most of all. She was no longer the petulant, difficult girl of his past. In Humbert's eyes, she had withered. She was a dead leaf echo of the nymphette from long ago. He claims he still loves her more than anything in the world, even though she is heavy, washed out, and in the original text, polluted. Yet as he leaves, Humbert imagines the Lolita of old, the girl in the short backless outfit, with crimson lips and a heart-melting smile. Perhaps he let her go only because she had passed the age of 14, because the nymphette within her had died. Once again, it is obsession, and his narrative is untrustworthy. Nonetheless, Humbert is also a pitiable figure. From the start, we learn of a loss from his youth, a girl named Annabelle Lee, who died of typhus. Perhaps he died at age 14 alongside that first love. Humbert is merely a shell, aging through the years, while his soul remains frozen in that first intoxication. He constantly seeks a shadow of memory, only to hallucinate and graft it onto the form of Lolita. One detail clarifies this. While writing his secret thoughts about Lo, Humbert still obsesses over a scrap of fabric from Annabelle Lee's clothing. Obsession, obsession, and only obsession, a withered soul, an unhealed wound, and a morbid hunger. As for Lolita, despite the criticism directed at the production because actress Dominique Swain was only 15 at the time, there is no denying that she seems to have stepped right out of the pages of the book and the reader's darkest imaginations. She is stubborn, spoiled, and undisciplined. Lolita possesses an innocent quality, but is also mischievous and defiant. She sticks chewing gum on Humbert's papers, talks back to her mother, and sits indifferently in her dresses. Lolita appears exactly as a child who does not yet know right from wrong, only knowing where to stop, and just beginning to explore her own beauty. She is unaware of the danger others pose and acts only on curiosity. Humbert may twist the meaning of her gestures, but perhaps Lolita truly did run to him and kiss him. She was curious about him, attracted to things she was too young for. Or perhaps Lolita had her own obsession with father figures, likely influenced by the absence of her own father. In the scene with the wet clothes, we see Lolita stop at a book page featuring a handsome, sophisticated man. She wants a firm anchor, someone to indulge her childish whims. And in that moment, Humbert appears with his sharp suit and polite gestures. However, from Lolita's side, we can be almost certain she felt no love for the pathetic professor. Humbert was merely a passing amusement for a young girl. By the middle of the film, she is bored with him. She becomes indifferent, demands to leave, hits him, and slaps him. She even steals his money in the night to escape. Lolita quickly falls for Claire Quilty, another wealthy older man, and eventually runs away with him. Lolita may not be innocent in appearance, but her emotions are deeply muddled. She doesn't grieve when she hears of her mother's death, only to sob uncontrollably nights later for her absence. Her soul was too young to contain both love and agony. Thus, Lolita is most like a child deprived of affection, unguided, and lacking boundaries. She is the victim of a distorted love story that concludes in death. Exactly one Christmas, a year after Humbert let her go, Lolita died in childbirth. It would be easy if this were a simple crime story about a predator and a victim, with clear-cut lines of black and white, but it isn't. Lolita is a tragic song of decay from the past, where a physical body still hunts for the shadows of yesteryear. This is a fictional story. It does not preach, it is not a lecture, and as the author Nabokov himself said, it has no moral message. Therefore, this work should not be viewed as a warning about a social reality or a lesson on how to protect children. Rather, it should be experienced with a mindset that doesn't try to extract contemporary issues. We are here simply to witness an intoxicating and desperate obsession, trying to see what the truth of the connection between these two souls was amidst the mountain of sin and delusion. So, in conclusion, did Humbert truly love Lolita? The answer is yes. He loved a Lolita who loved him back. a Lolita who never existed, a nymphette who died of a cruel disease, a girl who killed his heart and cursed his soul when he was 14. Now, the rot rooted in a bleeding wound is all that remains. It is the sad story of a man who crushed a child's life and destroyed his own in the process. It is as romantic as The Notebook, yet as wrongful as Old Boy. Lolita brings to mind a quote by director Guillermo del Toro, that the world is beautiful and horrible at the same time. Humbert is a morbid monster, but simultaneously a pitiable, love-struck man. Pure yet stained, poetic yet provocative. Wake up from Humbert's sugary, seductive words. Curse him, cast him into the deepest pits of your hatred, but also feel pity, and in doing so feel pity for Lolita, a girl sexualized simply because a man wanted to fill the void of his own pain.